Okay, sounds good. Quick game, and we are off to the races. So we are live on
We certainly are off to the races, aren't we?
well, or not, depends on which way you've been trading. But we are live on
Well,
YouTube. And good morning to
it's
everyone.
kind
Good
of
morning to you, Jeff.
morning, Ash, and morning, everyone, or afternoon, evening, wherever you are in God's green garden. Wow, what a market!
What a market, yes. I'm actually interested in the long down here because of the of where we are structurally. But
Yes, ditto. But
what do we do, mate?
have we got the
Do we?
kahunas to trade it?
Well, I think it's one of those things as well. Do we go with pure unadulterated price and try and come up with a reason that it would bounce here, or do we wait? Um, the problem with waiting to a degree is that it's so volatile. Actually, you can make some pretty good money while being right about the fact that it's probably still got a little bit further to come down. And you know, and the other thing is, I could find a reason that it would bounce here rather than just price. I'm just going to bring this up very, very quickly. So we have on a monthly chart, we have this area here, which really is it is a bounce point. I wasn't going to say it was the last bastion of hope, because really this was for the primary uptrend, and we're definitely starting to move to the downside now. So anything that does start to retrace has a huge probability of coming right back at you. But this is an area of bounce, you know, and we are, you know, getting to the end of the quarter. So I would suspect that if there is any bounce going on, it's going to be somewhere around here. So I'm actually quite prepared to go in really light here, mate. Really, really light, lighter than I've ever been before, just to see if there's anything going on. This is the S&P, continues to crash to the downside. The Dow is in the same situation and scenario. The Nasdaq that a friend of mine has been trading looks like that's got a little ways to travel, actually, the Nasdaq, before that's going to start to find its true area of bounce. And you can see, look, I'm looking at the monthly time frame here, and I think this is quite key if we are to get any kind of safety. You know, if we're trading in the opposite direction. Hopefully some of you got the I actually posted in our 2-minute brief last week, mate, that we were looking for downside, and I gave people an entry which it didn't quite get to, but it was close. And I also said the target is really up for discussion. You know, that the target could be in open,
Yeah, it
could
could
be
be
left
any
open.
where.
It could be anywhere. But actually the best way to do it is just use your stops, you know, get your stops in place and you should be all right. So that is what we're looking for. So difficult market to be trading in this area in some respects. There's going to be a lot of bouncing around, I would suspect, but if there's enough fear, then we'll be looking here, and I guess we'll be looking down here. So there's still potentially another 500 pips or 400 pips that could come down before it does actually find some support. But have you seen oil? Now this one is
Yes, I have.
and
Unbelievable.
interesting, wasn't it? Because yesterday we were talking about the fact that we shouldn't be saying too cheap. You know, it's got to bounce here,
Yeah.
and that's exactly.
I recall we said it was there for a reason.
It was there for a reason. And look, I mean, there's gaps all over the place in the markets right now, which is expressing fear. But it does also suggest that those gaps will be closed. Now, I don't know if they'll be closed today, but if there's enough volatility out there, then there's a chance that this could be closed and then start to really move to the downside significantly. So, you know, in some respects, I'm quite happy to go in on a light measure here, mate, and hope for the best, if you like. But you should be putting stops wide. You know, we talked about the using the average true range yesterday to establish where those stops could go. So you should be having very, very wide stops in these areas if you are looking to go long as well. Good morning, LT. But let me pass to you, mate. I don't know, would you trade the pound trade in an environment like this?
Answer no.
Yep.
I would not, and there's a very good reason for it. We're guessing here right now, I think, as to what's going to happen next, and
Yes.
that's not a game I want to play.
Yeah.
To be fair,
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of money off the table today.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll show you why, I suppose, is the best way to go through that. Like you, we are at technical levels, and technical levels are where you and I play our game. It's not a game of guessing. It's a game of, okay, the level's there. Let's use it.
Yes.
And I don't see any reason to actually change that. I don't appear. Oh, can I? Maybe I can.
Oh, sorry, mate. That's probably my. Oh, you
No,
can.
I think
Yep.
I'm okay.
Yep.
This one is the most surprising one for me. We got into this trade down here, and this is one of my best trades ever, but it's a surprise to me. I've locked in 12.5 to 1 on this
Oh, what a beauty.
already, and it's now at 16.5 to 1 my risk. Floating profit. This is euro dollar, and it surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I expected to be taken out last week here. I had my trailing. Oh, sorry, here I had my trailing stop here, which was locking in about 8-9 to 1, and I thought, that's quite acceptable. But yeah, that just keeps going, and I'm still a little bit bewildered as to why, and I'm not sure how it can go any higher. I really am not sure how it could go any higher.
Brilliant
but
trade management, mate.
Sorry.
Brilliant trade management.
Yeah, I'm doing this one well,
Yeah.
but I must say it's been easy. It's
Yeah.
not terribly difficult.
Yeah, but that it's easy because, well, simple probably, isn't it? Because you've actually followed your rules and you followed through with because actually, I would argue that when trades go in your direction as this one has, it's very difficult to stay in because you feel like you've made some really good money. So how can it go any further? But with the correct trade management, you've just got something which is running, and that's what you want to do, isn't it? You want your winners to run. That's how you really kind of create yourself a successful foundation.
Yeah, you get maximum value. The market's not always going to play that game though, and to be fair, this has just been absolutely skyrocketing.
Yeah,
and there's no real retracement. So that's why I say this has been pretty easy to manage.
I see. Yeah.
Stops went to here, stops went to here, stops went to wrong chart, but here somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Oh well, now they're here. So not a difficult job at all. But yeah, this is turning out to be one of my best trades ever, and that's saying something. It's really done far better than I anticipated. I really don't care what happens next. I'm in that position where I've taken a good chunk off the table, and again, I think we're at a strong resistance level. It can't go through here for mine from a technical perspective. It just can't. We're 100 pips above my, I guess, all-time favorite level of 113.60, and that just doesn't happen. So I've got to give it another opportunity. So the stop is above this week's candle, today's candle, below this week's candle or today's candle. So if it does keep going, then I'll keep trailing it. But I honestly don't expect to get any more out of this. If I do, happy days. But I think from here, if I'm serious, I've got to trade this short from here. If I'm going to trade it.
Yeah.
And that again is the quandary. I'm exactly the same as you. You want to trade long because the market is oversold.
Yeah.
And I know the market's overbought here. Not only overbought, it's super overbought. So the natural trader in us says, okay, we've got to take advantage of this and get it back down to a respectable level. And I will be willing to do that. I most certainly will be willing to do that, especially if I've got what amounts to a hedge on the table. How can I lose here if I sell? I can't. So that's exactly what I'll look to do. I'll look to play maybe this double top on a lower high and trade it back down to here. If it takes out my stops, who cares? That's all good. So you know, I can make a good play on this today, and I probably will look to do that. If you are not in profit on the euro, however, that becomes a very ballsy play, because you're playing against that strong momentum, and really where that's coming from is still beyond me. I don't see how it's gone that high, but it has, and I'm in exactly the same position as you, mate. I think, you know, it's gone that far. It has to have a rest at least.
Well, do you know
And
what? I've just opened up Bloomberg, and the headline on Bloomberg is oil crashes 31% in worst loss since 1991 after a price war erupts. And then the headline under it says stocks plunge, US yields crater amid oil shock. Now, we were discussing yesterday the cost that it would be to get oil out the ground for Russia, and it's you know it's effectively an issue between Russia and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia need the oil price to be around about $80 a barrel. For Russia, it's around about 40, and it's currently at 30. So you have to look at that and think, you know, why would Russia continue to cut their nose off to spite their face? And I'm not saying that in the next hour we're going to get a Russian oil minister coming out and saying, okay, the deal's back on by any stretch, but you would suspect that oil here, and therefore stocks here, would be perceived to be undervalued, because they can't sustain you would suspect that they shouldn't sustain maybe an oil price being down at these levels for too long, because they're just not making any money. In fact, they're losing money. And if the big players,
not a good business model, is it?
Well, no, it's not. No, and the fact is that they're kind of slitting their own throat. It's not like oil has been driven down here just by accident. It's been driven down by the people that are there to make money out of it. So in that way, even if it doesn't happen, my thinking would be surely traders would start speculating in this area that the scenario and conflict between oil will attempt to be resolved. You know, they'll get back around the table with the price at these particular levels. Pride maybe it might be
you'd
pride
think they'd work
fall.
it out, wouldn't you? You think, hang on a minute, how long can we lose money for?
Exactly. They're going to be hemorrhaging here, aren't they? So and I might be wrong, but it's one of those things that if I'm thinking it, then I would suspect that there surely would be some other traders out there that would have the same philosophy as that the oil price. It's not like it can't go any lower. It's one of those things we said on yesterday. It's not that oil can't go any lower, but it's starting to get a bit ridiculous at this particular price for the oil producers to keep it down here. So you'd have to question the sanity of keeping oil at sub $30, sub $35, really sub $40 a barrel.
You would have to. Look, I can go back in time, if you like, and tell you of my experience in a product that's unique, and the buyers were dictating the price. That does not work. It can't work. The producers have to dictate the price.
That's right.
And currently they're not.
Yeah.
So that will turn around. Otherwise, there'll be. Well, I'm not going to promote wars and all those sorts of things, but there'll be issues. There'll be issues definitely if the price stays there. So it's the same story as to what you've said on the FTSE is what I've said on the euro. This has to turn around.
Yeah.
Timing is everything, of course.
Yeah.
And that's our quest at the moment, is to find out how we get into this move when it does come, and it will come. There's no doubt it will come.
Yes.
So,
do you know what, though, mate? This is one of those things that I think you could trade this in the opposite direction, with the knowledge that you are probably trading a retracement. And I think that's probably where people need to be a bit careful. You are not trading a turnaround at this particular point. You are literally just trading the fact that it will likely bounce and a bounce in this kind of environment could be pretty lucrative because it's come down so far. Yeah, so it's there's a pretty good chance that it's gonna give us an opportunity to make some money here. But yeah, the move in the to the upside is still likely to be swallowed up and spat out again to the downside. So you have to kind of appreciate that as traders, that we are going to be trading retracement, and that's not what people not what everybody's comfortable with. And I completely get it. If you're not comfortable trading retracement, then let the retracement happen, and then just wait for it to give you a sell signal and let it drop again and be trading with the trend.
Yeah, it's kind of my ball game, so I'm more than happy to do that. So they're kind of getting to the area that I really, really enjoy. So I love trading retracements. It's just a matter of getting your timing right, of course. And the tricky part about the timing at the moment is that the market is now in, you said panic, oh, you said fear, I'll say panic. It's the same thing. And as soon as there's any inkling and bad news on Bloomberg, on even the nightly news on your television set, anybody who's retail trading grabs hold of that and says, "Oh my God, this is going to hell in a handbasket. We've got to get out of here." And they're the times. Julian talks about this often. And go to your sentiment cycle. I think your sentiment cycle is going to help you immensely in this situation, because sentiment now is in fear and panic.
Yes.
So take a look at that. That's exactly where we are right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point.
Yeah, the market is really in a panic situation. So I think opportunities that have not been taken yet, getting into these moves, and we've been spruiking them for over a month now. If you didn't get in them, it's probably dicey to trade in these directions at the moment. So wait for the retracements, if you like, and those retracements will be eminently tradable if you've got the right approach and the right system or strategy to trade them. So it's tricky. There's no question it's tricky, but keep your head and go back to the basics that you've been taught, and I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and Starmax is talking about oil is going to be the trade of the year, and I kind of agree with that. If you could sort of time it right, then it could be the trade of the year. But what I wouldn't really be worrying too much about is missing the move, because even though it's come down incredibly viciously and it'll probably go up the same way, it's still likely to pop back down again, settle down, and then give everybody a chance to trade it properly, or maybe not properly, but a bit more easily. But yeah, I mean, the CAD must be also a currency that that would be of huge interest right now. The CAD is absolutely tanking.
Look at that. The dollar's on its knees and dollar CAD has just gone nuts.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the daily chart. Look at that. Awesome. So yes, absolutely.
Gaps everywhere, isn't there, this morning?
Oh yeah. Look, and escalation in the coronavirus, I think, has done that. Italy had a shocking day yesterday.
Yes.
123 deaths, man.
Yeah, and they really are shutting down the country as well. There's just no way that stocks, equities and risk on currencies are going to do very well in an environment like this. If you want the understatement of the year, it's just they're going to struggle. But really the point is about going long in any of these places is that people will still be looking for value. And as long as they have a longer term view of the market, then actually this price, if you think about the FTSE, I'll take the screen just for a period here, mate.
Okay, I like Willie's point before we leave oil and take the screen by all means.
Yeah.
If I have to stop, then let me know. Willie's point, love the point. The attrition war to grab market share, and we spoke about this yesterday with Russia, right? Because Russia can afford far more than the Saudis, for instance.
Yeah.
for this to crash and tumble. And you know what? I'm of the opinion, and I'm absolutely no oil aficionado, and I'm no economist, and I'm no expert on any of those subjects that we've just mentioned. But you know, I'm pretty good at logic, and logic tells me that maybe we're at a tipping point here, and that tipping point may well be, and Ash, you've spoken about this quite often, that tipping point may well be in favor of renewables.
Yes.
Or alternative energy, right? So the market share point that Willie's making is probably on point, because these guys are probably now realizing that their resource not is finite, but their potential to earn from that resource may well be finite.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually.
What that does to the market, still got no idea, but I'm still going to trade that from the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I get the opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is I was just going to say about the value as well. You know, this is the FTSE 100 on a monthly chart. Now, if we think about the all-time highs, it was up to near 9,000, and it's currently at 6,000. So, sorry, not 9,000, 8,000. It was near 8,000. It's currently at 6,000. So a 2,000 point drop from 8,000. Which is 25%, you know, so we're 25% away from the highs. And people will start looking at this and thinking, well, that's got to be value. You know, whether, you know, when because the companies will recover. The question obviously comes down to, do they want to get in at this particular point in the story, because you're likely to still be sitting through quite a lot of pain before the price goes back in your favor. But does this become pretty much the kind of value area and the value trade? Because even if it does pop down a bit, does it you know, start to come back to this area and start to create something of a base down here? Now, do you want to be in first? Well, you probably do if you think that this is going to start really jumping heavy to the upside. So I could see why people would. And also, that, you know, there would be a lot of hedge fund managers and pension companies that would have done their due diligence on the fundamentals of every stock, and they would know where their fair value is. And there's no doubt about it. Price is definitely under it now. You know, it's going to be under fair value for all those stocks that they quite liked a year ago. And they'll probably be thinking, actually, you know what? Maybe we could pick this up, because the common belief is that by the summer, coronavirus probably would have gone away from its first phase, and that means that the economies will start functioning relatively, you know, with relative normality around about that time of year. And if that's the case, then you're only really waiting 6 months, you know, 3 to 6 months before you start to see a return on equity. If that happens,
I think a lot of that depends, Ash, on who's dying. And I mean, I know that sounds really foul thing to say, but if it's aged people dying and frail dying, you know, this is really a controversial thing to say, and I don't mean to be callous in any way, shape, or form, but if it is aged people dying, you know, and not fit, healthy people, so that the most vulnerable people, if they're the ones that are dying, then I think this coronavirus will, the contagion or the panic and fear that it has triggered in the markets. And I keep saying this, it's been a trigger. It's not the complete story. The story is we've had higher highs than ever in markets for the longest time, and that can only go for a certain period of time, and it needs a trigger to stop that happening, and the coronavirus has been that trigger. But if that turns out to be that only the vulnerable are dying, and again, it's a very callous thing to say, I think the world and the markets will recognize that in the not too distant future, and we will see these corrections, I'll call them at this point, as massive corrections, and that's pretty much it.
See,
We
mate,
get on with business as usual.
This is the this is the discussion I was having with Paul. I don't think this is about deaths. I don't think it's got anything to do with health. I don't think it's got anything to do with deaths. I think it's about. My personal view is that it's you know, because they could bring up any amount of any number of people, and it creates concern in the world, but really, in my opinion, this comes down to the reaction that countries and companies are taking about those deaths. So if they are shutting down half of a country to contain a virus, whether people are dying from it or not, it's going to have an effect on the economy. If it has an effect on the economy, equities are going to fall. So the deaths equation to me was never really a factor. You know, it's all about the reaction for me. You know, all I want to know is what are they doing, not to contain the coronavirus, but to keep industry going. If they are shutting down factories, that is going to stop industry. You know, as soon as Apple said this is going to affect our profit line, that was the first point where the market really stood up and said, hold on a minute, this is going to affect my profit. And that was you know, before that there was a huge amount of deaths going on, but it was really because of the reaction to, you know, from the Chinese government, because the Chinese government were the first to, you know, shut down. You know, they shut down Wuhan, didn't they? So they shut down a whole area, a whole economic area. Then it spills into Hong Kong. And the concern, in my opinion, that traders have got is if this really does start to kick in America, then and the economy starts to slow and shut down in America, then they're not going to be getting much return on their money for a long time. So that's why I think that the market is starting to you know, the oil thing is a completely separate matter in some respects. It does have something to do with Corona as well, but it's also got to do with the situation between Saudi Arabia and Russia. But they're shutting down sporting events in Italy. They haven't done that yet in the UK. And every single one of those sporting events is all those people that are paying ticket prices that will go and they'll buy beer. The hot dog stand man that stood outside the football ground. The guy that runs the cab company that takes all those people to the airport. You know, aeroplanes people aren't traveling. So governments and companies are taking specific actions, but people are stopping going places. You know, they are hoarding food and stopping using airline companies because they're just not comfortable going to certain regions, and that is what I think is being manifest in the price action. I don't think this has got a direct relationship, if you like, indirect, yes, but I don't think it's got a direct relationship to the amount of deaths that is going on, because it could pop to 1 million and we could see price move down another 100 pips and then start pop back up again. If they say, you know, but we're going to start opening factories up again.
And I'm not arguing with you for 1 second. And you know, I'd love to replay our show like a month ago, or maybe even a little bit more than a month ago, when we were saying exactly this, and the market was going up and up and up and putting in new highs.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, we've been on the same page for some time, we've both done well out of that because we knew what was coming. Yeah. Well, sorry, there's no such thing as new in the markets. We had a fair idea of what was coming. But my point is, this fear and panic that we're seeing at the moment is directly related to exactly what you've just said. But my point is, if they now work out that, and this is my theory, right? And you know what I'm like with theories. I get the absolute feeling that what I'm hearing from the scientists is telling me these deaths that are occurring are for vulnerable people only. And when the world works out that is the case, and a normal healthy person, blah 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 blah, isn't really at threat of this virus, then I believe the market will rebound from wherever it lands through this contagion that's happening at the moment. And where that is anybody's guess. I've got absolutely no idea where that will be, or when the market, and I could be wrong in my estimation that maybe far more people are vulnerable than the aged or the frail. And if that's the case, then goodness knows where this ends up, because of exactly what you've just been talking about, Ash, that we've been talking about for a week or a month or more than a month. We know that economies will suffer and they're going to shut down, and supply chains are going to fail, and all the rest of these issues that are coming ahead. So it's not a black and white picture. It's very much okay. Let's do what we normally do, and if we can take advantage of what will now, in my opinion, be a retracement on these big moves, if we're fortunate enough to get those, then let's see what happens at the end of that period, when, if anything has changed in terms of coronavirus, for instance, then maybe we reassess. But if nothing's changed, then this will continue to fall. I've got no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. We got LT saying, is there any panic in the UK? You know what, in a very British way, that kind of is. You know, people are buying more toilet paper, but they're not really doing much more than that.
Isn't that unbelievable? You know, I sell toilet paper, Ash, as you know.
Yeah.
I sell bamboo toilet paper, and I'm getting orders from the mainland for toilet paper at the moment. Isn't that unbelievable?
It is unbelievable, mate. I mean, when it comes down to it, if you can produce enough of it, does this change your profit line for the year significantly enough for it to be a positive?
No.
Right.
I think it's bullshit.
Because
pardon
the reason I asked that is that there was a point yesterday where I was going, hold on a minute now, who gains out of all this stuff?
Sorry, if you're talking about me specifically, I don't produce it, I only on-sell it. For the producers of toilet paper, absolutely, they're going to have a windfall.
I mean, do you actually think, because I was looking at, I think it was Unilever that kind of sells all these kind of household products, and, you know, just trying to think of the supply chain, because that's what we're trying to do here as traders, you know, after we kind of clear
they've got to get it to their customers. That's the problem.
They've got to get it to their customers. Yes, yeah, but does it? You know, do we get into? And this may sound ridiculous, but we get into a price war with something like toilet paper. You know, is there massive toilet paper inflation? Because I tell you, mate, we haven't got any on the shelves.
If that's the case,
we haven't got any on the shelves round here. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking it's not that essential.
It becomes palm trees after that.
Yeah. But you know, I was thinking it's not that essential. Just have a shower. I know it's a bit inconvenient, but you know, just have a shower. It's not like I don't get that one. I get people.
I don't get it either. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But am I seeking to profit from it? No, I've got my own customer base for toilet paper, and they're the only people who are going to get it. So I am refusing sales to other people at the moment.
Yeah, everyone is snapping it up, Lewis. Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know, mate. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe you kind of have to go to the toilet a lot if you get it, which means that everybody's expecting.
That's the only thing you can sort of glean from this, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're afraid of going to the toilet all the time.
Yeah. Which I think the last thing you'd want to be doing is using a lot of toilet paper. It's going to be pretty painful by the end of it.
Absolutely. B-days must be in huge demand.
Yeah, yeah, you think so. Anyway, so oil hunting, big players started hunting oil up to $45. Yeah, I would have thought they would. Oh gosh, oil, Lewis. Yeah, oil is a big part of the world economy right now. We haven't really made that transition.
Yeah, it's not going to die anytime soon. That's true. Now, nor's coal, to be fair, but
no.
At the end of the day, I think this may well be a turning point.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now I feel kind of bad about this, but I do need to shoot off.
You're going to go. I know we've got to get out of here.
Yeah, and I apologize about this, guys, but I have got something that I need to go and deal with. and it's, you know, it's quite pending. So I need to shoot, but we will be back normally tomorrow, and we'll do, and you know, we'll kind of we'll see where we're sitting tomorrow, and we'll do a proper time show depending on how the markets are looking. Usually, if the markets are quiet, we won't be doing anything. Too long a show, but I think the chance of the market being quiet for the next year have just diminished quite significantly. So yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening in. Apologies for finishing a little bit early today, but we'll be back, as I say, normally tomorrow. And do we have an interview tomorrow, mate?
Mate, we do. It's with surname Orr. He's a
James Orr.
James Orr, education provider. So if you want to Google him, guys, in the meantime, happy days. And if you've got any questions for him, we will be talking to him live and true here tomorrow. So it could be interesting. I'd like to see. He claims he's got a very high conversion ratio from traders to beginner traders to professional traders. So interesting to talk to him, see what he's got on offer, and
Brilliant.
we'll expose that to you guys tomorrow. Ash, enjoy your heavy workload.
Brilliant.
And,
yeah.
I'll catch you tomorrow, buddy.
Thanks, man. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
What time?
Oh, sorry, buddy. Of course, we need to state the time. It's going to be at 5 to 8.
5 to 8. That's a date. Don't be late. See you guys.